cut. Welcome to the top cut. Welcome to the top cut. Welcome to the top cut. Top cut. Welcome to the top cut. Welcome to the top cut. Welcome to the top cut.
Today's episode is brought to you by Gem Accessories. Gem Accessories is one of the leading accessory manufacturers within the trading card game space. Known for their deck boxes, Gem also has an amazing lineup of binders, backpacks, and more. Some of our personal favorites include the new KLRZ Icons deck boxes, the Secrets binder, and the Jaguar and Puma backpacks. But don't just take it from us, check out some of these reviews on screen. For all of these amazing products and more, be sure to check out Gem Accessories using the link in the description down below, or on Twitter at XGemAccessories. Again, the description down below, or on Twitter at XGemAccessories. Hello, everybody, and welcome into today's episode of the Top Cut Yu-Gi-Oh! Podcast. My name is Sunny. I am here with my co-host, Caleb.
Hello.
And of course, before we get too far in, we want to thank all of our wonderful sponsors. So a huge thank you to, of course, Gem Accessories, who you saw an ad read for before this video started. And also, of course, thank you to our wonderful sponsors, Millennium Threads, as well as ETB Games, Steel Fox Games, and of course, if you are interested in supporting the channel at no extra cost to yourself, be sure to check out our TCG Player and Dragon Shield affiliate links to support the podcast. Just click before you shop, and it helps us out, gives us a little kickback. Also, if you are interested, you can always check out our Discord server, and the number one way that you can support us here on the podcast is 100% by going ahead, and if you are on YouTube, going ahead and subscribing, or if you are on
Spotify and Apple Podcasts?
yes, those, if you're on those, you can also hit the follow button or whatever appropriate button it is per platform. Now, normally this is where we would go ahead and get on into the patron ad read, or not ad read, but like the patron name reading. But we listen to feedback, and we have gotten feedback that these intros are getting really, really long. So, especially since we added in like a pre-roll ad read on like the Spotify and iTunes platforms, with pre-roll ads as well as mid-roll ads and end roll and an actual sponsored segment and everything else, we want to break it up a little bit more. The idea was always to get it all out of the way early.
Yeah, but now there's so much. It's
gotten to where we don't really get to the content for a few minutes.
Yeah, so we're just going to go ahead and push the Patreon name reading to the end.
Right. So this is actually more of the standard thing that you see across all different creators. You know, if you watch the progression series, it's at the end. If you watch whatever, it's almost always at the end.
Yeah, so we're just getting more in line with other content creators who do stuff similar to us.
Right. We're kind of falling into the standard, which is probably what we should be doing.
Yeah.
So thank you, of course, to our patrons for supporting the podcast, but we're going to do the name readings at the end from now on. Also, we have gotten suggestions on the patron content. If you are interested in hearing us talk, we've been talking about Pokemon lately, but if you want to hear us talk about Kingdom Hearts in the upcoming episode, again, if you subscribe to the Patreon, it gets you an extra episode every week at least the $5 tier. $1 tier gets your name, $5 tier gets an extra episode. And I think at the $5 and up tiers, you start getting merch.
Yep.
So, okay, well, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about our main piece of discussion today, which is, of course, the ban list.
Yep, we are in ban list season, so it's about that time.
Right. So let's go ahead and kind of discuss what I think a more appropriate thing to do here would be less what we hope to see and more what we think will actually happen. Realistic shots at like cards that have a realistic shot at getting hit. And I think that there's some pretty glaring issues with the format that need to be addressed.
I mean, one of the glaring issues being the fact that we're in a mostly tier 0 format. It kind of ebbs and flows in and out of being a tier 0 format. It's weird.
Right.
You know, because like one weekend, tier will be 70% represented. Next weekend, it's 60, next week it's 55, and then next week it's back up to 75. It's weird.
It really is odd, but I think it's really safe to call this a tier 0 format. I think that you mainly... The main reason that you see tier limit falling below that kind of 65% threshold that people look for, which is just an arbitrary number, by the way.
Yeah.
But I think the reason that you have that number being, or the reason that you see it falling below that number, is because tier limit is kind of unique in tier 0 decks in that there is an entire pool of hate for that deck, right?
I mean,
You have
Dweller.
Well, okay. But okay, you say Dweller, but
Yeah.
there's not just Dweller. It's also D-Shifter.
Oh yeah.
And now you have Dimensional Barrier. No,
Yeah.
not Barrier. Dimensional Fissure.
Yeah,
Is that three?
Macrocosmos.
Also at 3.
Different Dimension Ground.
Yeah, all Silent Graveyard is being side
Silent
decked.
Graveyard. There's just so...
Bystials.
Yeah, the Bystials themselves. Like, literally any deck that can just put 2 level 4s on board, it can just go, cool, I now have a Dweller. And I shut your deck off for the turn. Congratulations.
Right. I think that it is... I think it's really unique in that sense, that there's so many different ways to disrupt the deck inherently because of its... I mean, its core essence is just interacting in the graveyard.
Yeah.
Whereas normally that's not a thing as much.
Because
well,
I mean, because like with previous tier, because with the most similar tier 0 deck I can think of is Dragon Rulers.
Right.
Which
didn't have this much targeted graveyard hate.
But that part of that was because they used the graveyard as just kind of a, you sit there for a minute and I'll be right back.
Right.
And then they do some other stuff and then go, okay, cool, this is going to go grab this back out and keep going. And the graveyard effects they weren't like extra, they were needed, but if they were shut out, they still had other things they could do, as opposed to tier limit where that is their thing, is the activate effects in grave.
Right.
Meaning that without them they can't play.
So I think though that what's crazy is that tier limit is still tier 0 with all this stuff, even though it does ebb and flow. Even with all this targeted hate, this deck is definitely still tier 0 in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no, because if it goes off, it.
I mean, it's not if it goes off; it's when it goes off. It's,
yeah.
You know,
it
very, very, very rarely bricks.
Oh yeah, no, well, and like most of that hate though only lasts for like one turn. Different Dimension Ground, Silent Graveyard, and Abyss Dweller being the 3 main ones only last for one. Only are very limited to how long they last.
D-Shifter.
Yeah, D-Shifter 2.
That's 2 turns, but yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, Dweller can also hit 2 turns. Because detach 1,
yeah,
detach
sure.
1. Shifter hits 2 turns. Different Dimension Ground only hits 1 turn. Silent Graveyard only works for 1 turn. After that, you gotta knock them out. If you don't, they're just gonna do what they do.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, I asked for mailbag questions. I got distracted by one of them. Wow. So I think that the first thing that we're gonna do is talk about the tier limit deck and how we would hit it. So there have been other Banlist videos that have come out recently. Mainly, I know that me and you both watched Josh Schmidt's Banlist video, which I gotta say, Josh Schmidt is one of the most informed content creators that there is.
Oh yeah, no. He spent a solid 15 minutes on just talking about one card for tier limits.
Right. And it's not just the depth of knowledge that he has of this format, it's his depth of knowledge at the highest levels of the game. We're talking about somebody that has several YCS wins. We're talking about somebody that has been to Worlds multiple times. He is one of the best players in Yu-Gi-Oh! Today.
He's got the credentials to back him up when he says stuff.
Right. So when you see somebody like him talking about something like the format, how the format has developed, what cards you see as problem cards, what cards need to be hit and don't, you take it not just with it, you take it with more than a grain of salt, right? You take it with some real brevity.
You take it with the whole salt shaker.
Right. So, with that said, I echo a lot of what he said. I believe that he's right on most things, not everything. I disagree with some.
Yeah, there's one or two things I disagreed with as well.
So, the first thing, though, is the tier limit deck, which, in our opinion, or I'm not going to say our opinion, my opinion, let's kind of go through it card by card and talk about the cards that we believe are the biggest problem cards and the cards that we think need to be hit. So, I think the number one place is, I think what you can do to start with is look at the OCG and look at what their ban list looks like.
And how little it did.
Well, sure, but also the look at how much they've hit that deck. Granted,
Yeah, and it's still the number one deck of the format, which says a lot.
granted, that deck is
But that's an OCG land,
right,
which is a completely different format because like Maxi exists.
right. So I think the thing to remember is the OCG ban list is hit a lot more in a way where more decks are competitive. And I think that the OCG format is a lot more casual, so it's a very different format by all means.
Oh yeah, no, different ban list, different card pool altogether. Because
Right.
they're, what, 2 sets ahead of us?
At this point, I think
Yeah, because they're getting ready to get...
Cyberstorm Access comes out in the next couple of weeks over there, I believe.
Yeah.
And we will be 2 core sets behind them once Cyberstorm Access releases.
Yeah. So like they're 2 sets ahead of us at all times, just about.
Yeah, if not more.
Yeah. So they have access to cards that we don't even have access to yet.
Right, 6 months ahead of time.
Yeah. So
For example, they have already gotten the over there, the field spell for tier limit is already limited. We don't have it yet, which is crazy.
No, we have the tier limit field spell. It's Paralino.
I'm sorry, the Kshatri field spell.
Yeah. But you know, like they've gotten it, had to suffer through it, and it's been limited.
Yes.
But that being said, they limited it real quick. Like the very next ban list that came out, boom, limited. It was quick.
Yeah, and granted, that's maybe the fastest I've ever seen a card get hit without it being an emergency list, but still.
Yeah, because normally the way the OCG does things is like card comes out, usually it gets a full ban list. The next ban list it goes down to 2 and then to 1. Kind of slow. But no, they went the very next ban list, boom, back drop to 1.
Yeah. So I think the number one place to start is where they have, which is Kit Kalos.
So Kit Kalos is a problem.
Kit Kalos is a huge problem. I personally believe that it will be banned on the next ban list.
I want it to be banned, but I think they're just going to limit it to 1, which for the most part
does nothing.
Does nothing, because aren't they already only running 1?
Most of them are.
Yeah, but
there's some particular ones that are running 2 because of Kshatri Unicorn.
Yeah,
but most of them are only running 1.
Yeah, but I want it to be banned. If it gets banned, great. But I fully suspect that Konami will limit it for no reason.
I think Konami has been making much better ban list decisions as of late than they have in the past. And I have faith that Konami will do the smart thing should they hit it and ban it. This is not the OCG land where they limited VFD, right? This is TCG land where VFD got banned outright.
After how long of people saying it needs to be banned?
Once Virtual World got a hold of it and was a deck.
Yeah, and was dropping multiples.
Yes, it took a few months.
Yeah.
So it took longer for VFD to get hit than Arch Nemesis Protoss did for Sword Soul. I'll say that.
Yeah. And then but like I said, if they ban it, great. It needs to be. That's where I think it needs to go. Knowing Konami's track record, probably to 1.
Yeah, I will say I think it gets banned, but that brings up another card that's played a lot in that deck, which is Instant Fusion.
The thing is, I don't think they're going to hit Instant Fusion. And I have a good reason why they're not going to hit it.
Sure.
So, B Trooper's about to get a brand new card.
Sure.
It is level 5, and it has got a really powerful effect. It is the perfect instant fusion target.
Sure.
They're going to want to push that in B Trooper, so they're not going to touch instant fusion. Because they're probably going to straight up say, yeah, you use instant fusion, pull this out, get a search, let's go.
The counterpoint to that is that I don't think they care enough about B Trooper to justify that.
Entirely possible. But I mean, if Kit Kalos is gone, there's no point in banning instant fusion, because
There's always going to be something else that's powerful for instant fusion. So I think in your scenario where they limit Kit Kalos, I think you have to ban instant fusion.
No. If they limit Kit Kalos, they have to ban instant fusion. If they ban Kit Kalos, instant fusion's fine, staying at 1.
Yeah. I think that in my list, I don't think instant fusion gets banned, although I'm going to be honest, it should be. I think instant fusion should definitely be banned, whether Kit Kalos is banned or not. I think it's enabled too much for too long. Even just letting you go into like Millenniumize Restrict to,
insulate your combo.
Insulate lines, right?
Yeah.
Anything like that. I truly believe that instant fusion is a problem and will be a problem for any fusions that are level 5 or below forever.
I mean, yeah, it definitely limits. Designs have to be very careful with their level 5 and lower fusions.
Right.
For pretty much as long as it exists. For now, I think it's fine at 1. If they ban Kit Kalos.
Right.
If they don't ban Kit Kalos, then it needs to go.
Right.
If they do, it's fine at 1 for now. Because again, B Trooper getting their level 5.
Yeah.
And then the one of it then just becomes another copy of Call by the Grave, basically.
It's just a Saki blowout to me. I don't like it. Okay, so next we have the tier limit engine itself as far as the main deck cards. So I think you have Havnus, Merly, Rhinoheart, and Sharon. That's right. Yeah. So of these, do you think any will get hit? And if so, which ones into what?
I know for a fact Havnus is going to get hit, hopefully to 1.
Mm-hmm.
Truth be told, after that, any of the rest of them could be hit and it'd be fine. Down to 1 or 2. At that point, it's just names, less of their actual effects.
Yeah, and this is a term that I got from MBT, but I think a critical mass, right?
Yes.
That's what you have to worry about. So I personally, and people are going to think I'm crazy for this, I think Merly needs to get banned.
Really?
Specifically, Merly needs to go.
Why specifically Merly?
Because she's level 2.
Oh, fair point. She is the enabler between Sprite and tier limit.
Yes. So, Merly is really the thing that allows okay, so I feel like in a lot of ways, if you really, really, really just throttle down the Ishizu package, maybe limit everything, which is what I'm going to call for, because it doesn't do anything unless you do that.
Well, yeah, because at that point, it's like, okay, cool, I'll just deal with it. Because, like, in my Ishizu Madolche build, I'm running 3 Medora, 2 Keldo, 1 Kelbeck. If they limited them, I'd be like, okay, cool, whatever. That's just an extra 3 slots for me to put other stuff in.
It's not that big a deal because you still run the engine, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at the tier limit deck, let's say you limit down all of the Ishizu cards. They're just going to replace that package with another consistency package, which is Sprite.
Yeah, and they're probably even going to still run them.
They would probably run all 4 of the Ishizu cards if they're limited.
And then just fill in those slots that originally got emptied out because of the limits with a Sprite core.
Right.
Because Merly, I said the word a second ago. Because Merly
is synergistic.
Energizes? No.
Synergizes.
Yeah, she synergizes and she enables the crossing over between the 2 archetypes.
I believe Merly needs to go, and I think Sheeran needs to be limited, and Havnus needs to be semi-limited. I think 3 tier limit names total is, well, and 3 Rhino Hearts, so 6 total,
Well,
is fine.
I would actually say that you switch around your limit and semi-limit. I'd switch them around personally.
So you would semi Sharon and limit Havness.
Me personally, I would. Other than that, I completely agree.
So my reasoning there is that Havness, something needs to happen for his effect to happen, right? So for him to mill, your opponent has to activate a monster effect on the field, and then he during their turn, and then he specials himself and then mills. Whereas Sharon is just a normal summon mill. And it's level 4, which makes it easier to do rank 4 plays with.
I thought Havness was level 4.
Havness is 3.
Okay, I did. Okay, then I changed it. Then I changed it, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
I got their 2 levels mixed up.
Right. So, I know that it's really intense to ban Merly, ban Kikalos, limit Sharon, and semi-Havness. It's a lot. And I know that it's a lot, but you're not going to properly and adequately address this deck without doing a lot. And for that matter, that leaves one more tier limit card worth talking about, which is the field spell.
Perlino, the Enabler.
I think it needs to be limited too.
Yeah, it should probably be limited.
Look at how many Zodiac cards have done time on the ban list.
Listen, like, my experience with that field spell was it made my opponent from being unable to play the game to almost going full board. And the only reason why I was able to stop them going full board is because I had hand traps galore.
Right.
And even then, whenever they top deck another one, they're a lot with one still on board. The only reason why they didn't win right there is exactly because I had Pangertop sitting there,
Right.
who could just on activation pop it, get rid of it, no search. It's the only reason why I didn't lose right there.
Right. I just
Yeah, it needs to go. It needs to be limited.
that's what I'm saying. Even if you compare it to where Zodiacs were with their bans at their peak. So in September 2018, which I know Zodiacs were popular in 2017.
Yeah.
I just went to a random list in 2018 that I knew would have a lot of Zodiac cards. You're looking at Broad Bull and Trident being banned, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you have, let's see.
Rapier got limited, didn't he?
Rapier was limited. And at this time, I'm trying to find where Zodiac Barrage is.
I mean, you just Control F or Command F. You're on a Mac.
Yeah. So at this point, you have 3 cards from this deck on the ban list.
Mm-hmm.
And where is Zodiac Barrage?
Like I said, man, Command F.
What's not on the ban list?
Oh, interesting.
So
Where it be? It probably got like limited. Well, cause like I don't think it got banned until like Zodiac Tri Brigade is when I remember it getting banned, and at that point it was like, why?
it had been banned or limited once before.
Okay, and then got brought back and then banned again.
Yeah, it's moved around the list a lot.
Anyway, but that's 3 names on the list. 2 were banned, 1 was limited.
Right. Because at the end of the day, a tier 0 deck is tier 0 for a reason.
Yeah, and you gotta hit it real hard. I mean, cause like, look at the fumbling of Dragon Ruler. Originally, they just banned the babies. That did nothing. Then they limited the adults while the babies are still banned. That did nothing. So then they finally
that slowed it down, but it didn't. It didn't stop. It was still a deck. Yeah, it was a shell, but it was a deck.
Yeah, and then finally they said, okay, we got to ban the Dragon Wars altogether.
Right.
But the fact that they took 3 major hits to finally knock that deck out of existence.
It's baffling,
Yeah.
to be honest.
It went through 3 rounds of banning and limiting, and it went through 2 rounds of some seriously heavy banning and limiting.
Yes.
Still was like the number 1 or number 2 deck.
Yeah.
We're finally getting the big old bang hammer become. Tier 0 decks are tier 0 for a reason. It takes a lot to hit them, is what we're saying.
Right. Yeah, I just
to bring them on par with everything else.
So the initial Zodiac hits for a long time was just Broadbull Dryden, and Rapier, it seems.
Which
That
is-
was the initial wave of hits. But on the September 2017 list, I mean, look how long this list is. Look how many cards are here.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, this is on par with many of the most impactful lists of all time. And it was because the entire format needed a heavy shakeup.
Yeah.
And that's really what we need. This ban list needs to be a hard reset on the format in a way that we really haven't seen since either this list or the January 2019 list.
Yeah.
I feel like every 2 to 3 years,
There needs to be a
hard reset with the ban list.
yeah.
And I think this is the perfect time to do it. So, in my opinion, you limit the field spell, you ban Merly, you ban Kit Kalos, you limit the Sheeran, you semi-limit Havnus. That's 5 cards.
Yeah.
And Havnus probably goes to 3, either stays at 3 or goes back to 3 with very soon.
Yeah.
So, and then on the Ishizu side,
Just you have to semi-limit all of them.
I agree. I
'Cause
think
if
you have to I think you have to limit all of them.
Yeah, that's what I meant, limit. Because if you don't, they'll just shrug and go, I'll just fill in the holes with the other ones that you didn't
Right.
semi-limit or that you didn't limit or semi-limit. So I'm always going to be at the number of names I need.
Right. I think that I know that that's a lot of hits and it feels like it's all to one deck, but the Ishizu cards are a problem in more than one deck.
Oh, absolutely. They're a problem, and they're also a future problem that
Yeah, they will always limit future game design.
particularly with graveyard interaction and putting stuff in graves, stuff like that. It's utilized in Medolce, making it a very powerful deck. It's utilized in Naturia, making it a very powerful deck, surprisingly.
Yeah.
And both those decks are made entirely by a combination of the Vernus Elves and their weird cohabitation with the Ishizu cards, just because they're Earth Fairies as well.
Right. So I think that properly addresses Ishizu tier to a point that I don't think will actually happen, but I would really like to see it happen.
It'd be great. It'd be cool. I don't think they're going to hit the I personally don't think they're going to touch these Shizu cards yet, because they've only been out for what, 2 months?
I think if we get a ban list, I don't think we get a ban list till February, at which
Yeah.
case it'll be 3 months.
Yeah.
But the cards are already ubiquitous enough to where it's worth addressing.
That is fair.
The next thing is if you hit the tier limit deck to this extent, it causes a ripple effect.
Of course.
Then all of the next best decks become the best decks.
Yes, but then you also have to take into account the next best decks, quote unquote, that were utilizing bits and pieces of those engines.
Right. Which Sprite is not. And I think Sprite
Would
also needs to be addressed.
Yeah, it would be the next best deck in the room.
So-
Because it was before tier limit became a thing.
Right. How do you address Sprite?
Okay, as of now, I would probably limit blue, limit Jet, the black one.
Jet's the one that searches a spell trap.
Yeah, limit Jet, limit blue, and maybe limit Elf.
I would personally
Mhm.
limit Jet
Mhm.
specifically and ban Elf.
And then leave blue at 3.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I would
that's
leave
fair.
blue at 3. And starter, people are going to not like this. I think starter at 2 would be really good.
The thing is, my opinion on starter is the same opinion I have on quick launch. They probably never should have printed it.
The difference with starter versus quick launch is that it is a hard once per turn,
Mhm.
and starter is much more restrictive, right?
Yes.
It not only does it burn you, but it also locks you into level rank link 2s.
Yes, compared to quick launch, which is just fetch a
Rocket monster.
rocket monster. I don't think either one of those cards should have ever been printed, but of the two, Sprite starter is definitely less egregious by a lot, actually, because of all the limitation stuff. But They do it. They were printed. They exist. So now we have to deal with it. So I could see a sprite starter limit, but if you ban Elf, I don't think that's entirely necessary. Semi-limit would still be fine. Again, banning Elf.
Right. But I think the deck does need to be addressed.
Oh yeah, big time.
I really don't think that a limit to Jet is debatable.
No, definitely not. But yeah, no, Jet's gotta be limited. Again, if they don't ban Elf and just limit it, then they have to limit Blue. If they ban Elf,
You mean starter?
starter and Blue. That point,
Oh, okay.
I'd say both at that point. But then if they
I don't think limiting Elf does anything because most of them only. Okay, hold on. I take that back. If you run it in a tier limit deck, then you only run 1. In a Sprite deck, you do run 2 to 3 Elf.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. If you don't ban Elf and just limit it, then limit Blue, limit starter, limit Jet. If they ban Elf, then limit Jet, semi-limit starter, and leave Blue alone.
Yeah.
At that point.
And the next one is Fluunderies.
Oh, just ban the barrier statue. I think Flu is great without the barrier statue.
I agree, but I also want Harpy's Featherstorm banned.
So do I, but I don't think they're going to touch it.
I don't think they will, but
I would like to see it gone. I would like to see it in barrier statue.
I'm going to be honest. I want Featherstorm gone more than I want Barrier Statue gone.
So
Barrier Statue has more ways to interact with it. I can negate its effects and stuff.
Oh yeah, or you can just normal summon, swing over it.
Yeah, I can do something.
But not Harpy's Featherstorm.
Dude, I dislike Harpy's Featherstorm so much more than Barrier Statue, and it's not
Fair.
even funny.
No, that's entirely fair.
I acknowledge that by getting rid of Barrier Statue, you really do change up the dynamics of that deck in a big way.
Well, because now they have to rely on opening with the Featherstorm.
Well,
to be fair, they have to rely on opening Eaglin or Robin or Rabina.
Well, and they also run Prosperity and Duality and stuff like that to dig deeper. But realistically, I do genuinely believe that Featherstorm is a much more unfun card than the Barrier Statue.
Yeah,
but
Barrier Statue needs to be banned, and then they need to do something about the Featherstorm. Even something, I don't know what. Ban it, limit it, something.
So
errata it.
Yes, I think that after that, you start getting into like the singleton cards here and there, and even other strategies.
Well,
but they're more rogue.
There is one other card that could be debated on being limited or banned. More on the semi-limit, in my opinion. Possibly just straight up limit. Map.
The Fluunderies map.
Yeah, but if they ban, Barrier Statue and the Featherstorm, I think map's fine at 3.
I agree. I in my opinion, if you hit the Barrier Statue
and Featherstorm,
if you hit Barrier Statue alone, maybe semi-limit the map. But if you can hit Barrier Statue and Featherstorm,
map's fine at 3.
You can leave map at 3. I don't care about map. Nearly as much as I care about the. I really hate Featherstorm. I cannot stress that enough.
Now,
Featherstorm is one of my least favorite cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now.
I mean, M-Pen is a skill drain while on field, but it's a skill drain you can play around.
Yeah, because it only affects attack position monsters, I believe.
Yep, that is correct. It only affects attack position monsters, and so it's easy to play. It's possible to play around.
I literally played through an entire Fluunderies board one time because he had M-Pen. And he didn't have a chance to get into the Barrier Statue.
Mm-hmm.
And I just specialed Ecclesia in defense position.
And then
specialed Taya in defense position.
Yeah.
And then
Chi Xiao in defense position.
And Baxia in defense position and shuffle it and the map back.
That works too, yeah.
Yeah.
That works too. Yeah, like I was gonna say, you could also just make Chi Xiao and then in defense position, then effect negate.
Yeah, I just shuffled them back. It was easier.
Yeah, that works too.
That way I could normal summon too.
Yeah. Well, it's an interaction you can play around.
Yes.
As opposed to just monster effect. All your monster effects are negated for the turn.
Yeah.
And you can't. And after it's been activated and resolved, you can't stop it.
I really I don't hate Fluandereeze, actually. I don't know that I've ever lost to Fluandereeze in a tournament.
I have, and I lost because of Barrier Statue. Exactly Barrier Statue
Really?
plus the Featherstorm.
See, and like I said,
Or
Barrier Statue
plus something else.
Barrier Statue doesn't even, like, bother me as much as Featherstorm does.
The thing that really bothers me is they'll set the Barrier Statue, pass, normal something swing over, and then they just bounce back to your hand with Ryza.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
it's not fun.
Yeah, I think that the deck actually has kind of interesting interactions and stuff, but Barrier Statue just kind of takes away from the deck.
Yeah.
So, with that said, are there any other cards you want to talk about, address, hit, anything like that?
So, one card that I've seen discussed a lot, once again, is Called by the Grave. But people talk about this card
Every
Banlist season.
Banlist, yeah.
I think it's fine at 1.
I think it should go. I disagree heavily. I think that Call By is a sacky one of that is unsearchable, and you cannot adequately play around it because you cannot adequately game plan for it. All it does is insulate combo decks for the most part. I do not believe that it is nearly as skill intensive of a card as there are other ones. And don't get me wrong, it has moments where it's like, wow, I feel like the greatest player alive, but it's rare.
I mean, okay, cool. I think it's fine at 1.
Fair enough.
Now, whether to ban it, I won't shed a tear. That's literally my full opinion is I think it's fine at 1. If they ban it, oh well.
You know, a card that I don't think will get hit, but I would really love to see either banned or at the very least limited?
What's that?
Super Poly.
Yeah, but...
Super Poly has been like the bane of my existence for a decade.
Listen. Garura.
I understand the concept of Garura being a thing, and they printed Garura. They obviously want the interaction with Garura and Super Poly, and I get that. But it's dumb.
It is.
Ban it. It's a dumb card.
Listen. I used to play...
I played Hero Beat back in the day.
Yeah, I got back in this game with Shidal. The deck that can most abuse Super Poly. I think it probably needs to go.
I don't know if it's the deck that can most abuse it. I think that actually is still Hero.
I mean, they don't really utilize it now, I don't think, do they?
Oh, they can.
Yeah, they can, but do they?
Some versions of the deck do.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, I've seen people play a full Super Poly package just for the sake of using Super Poly. Like, they're playing like 2 Escuardo, a Shining, a Nova Master, whatever, Great Tornado, whatever they need to.
But it's just like... But I mean, like, imagine you're up against Shidal and they just go normal, and like up against a deck with a Dark Monster. Do they just go normal summon Squamata, Super Poly, make Winda, effective Squamata, and just go off?
Right.
And get a free Winda off of it.
All right, so are there any other cards that you feel like we need to address?
I can't think of any more off the top of my head.
Okay, I can't think of any off the top of my head either. I know that it would be kind of dangerous to do a list like this and then just nothing else, because it is definitely possible that if you do something like this where you annihilate Tearlament and you hurt Sprite and Flu, then you end up with all the other decks and you kind of just end up with like last summer's format, which you don't really want. But I also acknowledge that, to me, I don't really have too much of an issue with Sword Soul or Despia. And I'm not saying that as a Sword Soul player. I'm saying that as somebody that loves Yu-Gi-Oh!
This is coming from somebody who doesn't play Sword Soul. I think Sword Soul is a perfectly acceptable deck.
I agree. I agree heavily. I'm biased, but I heavily agree.
It's like... It's broken, but fairly broken, if that makes sense.
It's very normal summon reliant, which is its crutch.
Yeah, like... It's kind of like I'm trying to think of a better way to describe it. Like, it's broken, but it's fair in the way that it's broken is the only thing I can think of.
I understand what you're trying to say. Yeah.
I hope other people understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Okay, well, what do you say we go ahead and do some mailbag questions?
Heck yeah.
All right, so imagine if they made extra deck Toon Synchro monsters, starting with Stardust Dragon. They created a new Toon monster as well called a Tuner who is a generic level 4 Toon effect monster that has the effect of, if you control a Toon world and a Toon monster, you can treat this card as a tuner. This card can be treated as levels 1, 2, 3, or 4 if you synchro summon a Toon monster from your extra deck.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
would Toons become more viable with an in-house extra deck package? Is the
It would
basically
become
the
more
question.
viable. It would become more viable, but not by a lot. Not by a lot, because then those 2 extra deck monsters have to be really beefy.
I think my thing with it is that if you start making Toon extra deck monsters, they have to accomplish something.
Yeah, not.
And Toon Stardust just isn't good enough. It's the reason
Well-
Stardust isn't played right now. If
Well-
they made Toon Chaotic Magical Dragon or whatever.
Well, no, because
You
you
know?
also have to remember that the Toon version of a monster doesn't necessarily have to have anything to do with what the original monster did. Some of them do, but not all. But actually, most of them don't. The only one I know of that does what it non-Toon, similar to what its non-Toon version does, is Toon Cyber Dragon.
Yeah.
Because because Toon Red Eyes Black Dragon,
Has an effect, which is more than the other one does.
Toon Dark Magician,
Same thing.
Toon Black Luster Soldier, who's based not off of Envoy, he's based off the Ritual,
Oh, okay.
has an effect. So, and then Toon Dark Magician Girl is one of the ones that pretty much has the exact same effect as regular Dark Magician Girl, in that for every Dark Magician she gains an attack buff, but then she does something else too, and I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. Doesn't matter, she's not run.
Right.
Toon Harpy Lady.
Yeah, and I get that they all do different things. I don't know. I don't think that it would vault them into competitiveness.
It would basically have to be, if you control a Toon monster, you can special summon this card from, for the Tuner, it'd be Toon Junk Synchron. If you control a Toon monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. It can be treated as any level. Blah,
Toon
blah, blah, blah.
Tuner.
Yeah. And then the Toon Stardust, let's go that route.
Right.
Would have to be this big beefy boss monster that can that just does way too much for a singular card. That'd have to do a multi-package.
It would have to be literally Toon shooting Quasar.
Yeah. It'd have to be Toon Stardust, whose effect then revives the Tuner to go into Toon Quasar.
Right. Essentially
Is what would have to happen there.
Yeah. All right. May have been answered for all I know. I don't know. If you were to try that new Disney card game, Lorcana, would it get a featured episode on the pod? Potentially.
Probably.
Potentially. We would
looks
definitely
cool.
discuss it. Yeah. To each of you, what is your dream pet?
I like my cat.
Okay, so I have a realistic answer and an unrealistic answer.
That's fair.
My realistic answer is I would love to have a good, docile, calm, chill cat.
Mhm.
Just a cat. I would love to have a cat. We can't have a cat because my wife is allergic, but I would love to have a cat. My unrealistic answer is I always wanted to have a giant fish tank with a coelacanth,
That's fair.
which are super illegal to own, but I've always wanted one.
Oh yeah, like that one dude from Atlantis.
Yes, that's the exact reason that I want one. That's the inspiration. I can't. I was about to say, have you ever seen Atlantis? Holy
Fun
moly!
Fun fact:
Wow.
that scene takes place 4 years
Before they were discovered.
Yeah.
Yep. Trust me, I know. I've
Yeah.
done much coelacanth research.
Anyway,
Much more than any reasonable person.
Anyway, I'm happy with my cat. My Gizmo is fantastic.
I like cats. I genuinely do enjoy cats. I can't have one. So.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Oh, I like strawberry.
I'm just a really standard chocolate person. I like chocolate. I do enjoy Rocky Road.
Specifically, the strawberry ice cream with the strawberry chunks in it.
Oh, fancy.
Mhm.
Yeah, fancy. Okay. What is your favorite Pokemon or Pokemon game from RBY to present day? Like Red, Blue, Yellow to present.
Ooh, that's okay. I can't say favorite Pokemon because
You literally cannot choose.
I literally cannot choose from a list of 30.
I thought you were going to say a list of 1,000, so that's better than I thought.
No, 30. That all to me equally are my favorites. As far as my favorite game, that's also a tough one. I'm usually more fond. So far, it's been Legends Arceus, actually. You in the past, it's just been whatever the newest one was my favorite because I've been playing since Red, Blue, and Yellow.
And when he says he's been playing, he means he gets every new Pokemon game day of release without fail.
I have felt that
all of them.
once.
Really?
One time.
What was it?
It was Pokemon Pearl.
That's not true. I was with you release day for that one. You were there.
No, I got it. No, I got it like a week later.
I'm almost positive I was with you on release day. No, I was not.
No, you were with me when I got it.
I was not. Because Pearl came out before
we met.
We met.
Yeah.
It was Heart Gold, Soul Silver.
Yes.
We were together for that one.
I got Pearl like a week later.
I have never gotten a Pokemon game like day of release.
I also never got Red, Blue, or Yellow on day release because you couldn't find them.
Right, that makes sense.
And then Gold, Silver, Crystal, same thing. Sapphire and Ruby I got for Christmas that year, like a week after it came out or something like that.
So what you're saying is your initial claim of getting them all except for Pearl was a blatant lie.
Yes, because then I was sitting there going back through. It's like, wait, no, because there was no place for us to get them yet until Pearl.
Yeah. So I've never gotten a Pokemon game day of release ever.
Yeah.
Closest I ever came was Diamond. I got Diamond not long after release, maybe a day or two. I take that back. I got Heart Gold day of release.
Yeah. Okay, so
because we waited outside our GameStop for an hour until they opened.
Yeah. So going back to what I was saying though, so I have seen the way that this game is developed. I've played just about every Pokemon game up to this point, including a vast majority, not all of them, a vast majority of the
side games
and the home console titles back when Pokemon was primarily handheld. I played Stadium 2, XD Gale of Darkness, Coliseum. I played a little bit of Battle Frontier, not a lot, but there was no story to that game. It was just kind of an online. It was the online component to Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. So that's.
I don't think it was online entirely.
It did have a solo mode, but it was not. But it was kind of bring in your Pokemon from Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum into
like an HD version.
Yeah, in these little challenge battles that you don't get anything for. So I never bothered with that one, but so like I said, so I've been able to see how this game has evolved from red and blue all the way through now. So every game since then, because then I just think, wow, if me from like 10 years ago could see the way where Pokemon games are now,
right,
it'd blow his mind.
So my favorite generation has always been Gen 3, but my favorite individual game is probably Pokemon Platinum. I put over 400 hours into Pokemon Platinum, which is more hours than I put into any other Pokemon game, which I know is less hours than you put into any Pokemon game, but it's more for me. I also very, very thoroughly enjoyed Let's Go Eevee and Legends Arceus. I thoroughly enjoyed those.
Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed Let's Go Pikachu.
You thoroughly enjoyed every Pokemon game.
There is exactly 2 that I did not thoroughly enjoy.
Really? I didn't know that you had any that you didn't thoroughly enjoy.
I only not thoroughly enjoyed Platinum, only because it was a lot of me going through the exact same stuff I went through in Diamond and Pearl.
Yeah, but Crystal and Emerald were similar.
I know, but because I had more of an attention span back then.
I guess.
And then same thing with Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, where it just kind of felt like the same story again. I was like, oh, so I got to go through this part again.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so I stopped playing after X and Y, which when I say I got
Ultra Sun, Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire.
Well, sure, yeah. Okay, so when I really got into Pokemon, I was playing red version and blue version and gold version. Those were like the 3 ones that I like rotated through and played all over and over. And like I had a friend at school, and we always talked about Pokemon Red, yada yada. And I didn't realize, and this is, I swear, this is when I was getting into Pokemon, because I was about 8 or 9 at the time. And my friend at school was like, yeah, I love Pokemon Red. He was like, did you do this? And I was like, no, I couldn't do that. That's weird. Turns out he was playing Pokemon Fire Red.
Yeah.
And I was playing Red.
Yeah, Red.
Right.
Like Game Boy, like Nintendo Game Boy.
Game Boy
brick.
Color, yeah.
No, not Game Boy Color. The brick. Before the Game Boy Color.
Well, I was playing it on a Game Boy Color.
Yeah. You could.
Okay, so I was playing Pokemon Red. Now, I only had those because I was given them. And it wasn't until like a bit later that I convinced my parents to get me a Game Boy or a Nintendo DS Lite. Right? Like the kind of like rounded edges ones.
Yeah, I know that one.
Right. So I get a Nintendo DS, and the first Pokemon game that I really got early in its cycle was Diamond, and then Platinum, and then so I got Diamond, Platinum, and Heart Gold all very early in their cycles. And then after that was what?
Black, White, Black 2, White 2.
Okay. Black and White, I played thoroughly. I played all the way through, and I didn't enjoy it as much as Platinum, but I enjoyed it. I never played Black 2, White 2. The next one that I got after that was X and Y. I thoroughly enjoyed X. I got X.
Okay.
I very much enjoyed X. And I really enjoyed Alpha Sapphire. What's funny is I borrowed Emerald from my friend. So I had played Emerald.
Oh, okay.
But I hadn't, even though Gen 3 was always my favorite because I always loved all the different Pokemon.
You never actually sat down to play the game.
I never like really put hours into it. I know the cities, the pathways that you follow. I know the general outline of the plot. I know all the Pokemon. I know the generation, but I had never really sat down and put hours into the game.
Yeah.
So to go from that to, Alpha Sapphire, which I still have my 3DS with I have a digital copy of Alpha Sapphire, and I've got 100 or so hours into it, which is, I don't play online at all. Ever. I do not play Pokemon online unless I have a friend that has the game and I'm we battle. So, but Pokemon is a very different experience for me than it might be for you.
Oh yeah, big time.
Because I only do the Pokedex and the story and things like that. I don't do online play at all. It just doesn't interest me for Pokemon.
No, that's entirely fair.
For reasons we've discussed.
Yeah, it's not for
length.
everyone. I mean, I always do the Pokedex as best I can.
Yeah, but I don't understand. You can 100% a Pokedex in 3 days of the game's release. I don't understand how you do it. I can't 100% a Pokedex in 3 months after the game's release.
It's never taken me 3 days. It normally takes me about a week, maybe 2. Scarlet Violet took me 2 weeks because I couldn't put in the hours I normally would. If I did, it probably actually only took me 4 or 5 days. But
that's insane. How do you I don't understand how you grind through evolving all the Pokemon, going how you figure out where everything is. Do you just Google everything?
If I need to.
It's crazy.
I mean, yeah, and it's not like I go from area to what I do is I go through the game, catch what I need, and then it's okay, here's what I'm missing, and I go back and go Google where I need to go get the things I'm missing.
So you just power through the main game.
Oh yeah, and what I normally do is I'll kind of collect a good selection of varied Pokemon, level them up as I need to, so that way I've got instead of having a team, I'll have so instead of having a team of 6, I'll have 18 Pokemon that I can switch around and rely on
right
by the end of the game, and then I pick 6 to go into the Elite Four with, because then at that point,
right,
yeah, that's how
that makes sense.
And then I go back through and go find what I need to find, unless there's a Pokemon where no, I need this.
Yeah.
Because there have been several times where I'm like, no, I need to know where this is now.
Yeah.
I'm going to catch it now. It's 3 badges from now? Dang.
Yeah. Okay. So, next question. Can Sunny twerk? No, I cannot. I do not have the hip motion. I don't know if it's been asked, but should Yu-Gi-Oh! Get the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood treatment for the 25th anniversary? I don't know what that is. I don't know what the FMA treatment is.
No comment.
What is the FMA treatment?
I think he means getting, like, a revamp that's closer to that manga.
Oh, yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, because that's what Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood was to Full Metal Alchemist was...
Yeah, Full Metal Alchemist, they didn't finish the story, and there was, like, a bunch of filler, and then, like, when they did Brotherhood, they just, like...
It was manga
completely
only.
redid it from the ground up to be really a lot truer.
Yeah, well, actually, the original Full Metal Alchemist was aligned to the manga for not that long, because then it caught up.
And then had a bunch of, like...
And then went this way to kind of... to wait for this to go up a little bit more.
Right.
But then it had to keep kind of... Because then the manga just stopped, and they had... And eventually they said, whatever.
It became a nightmare, yeah.
And became its own thing.
What is your favorite random tech card that has become playable within the past couple of formats? Sprite siding Thunder King Ryo for the mirror match is my personal favorite, for example.
That is amazing. I'm not gonna lie.
It is wonderful. I have to admit that from the last couple of months, last couple of formats, that is also maybe my favorite. I can't just come up with stuff. I think the beat cop from the underworld to protect Mystic Mine was very funny.
Very disgusting, but funny.
Right. I don't support that or condone it, but it was very funny.
Now, of the things that were theorized but never actually put into play because it never had to be,
right,
was Nekomane King and everything.
Yeah.
Versus
Dark World.
Dark World.
Yeah, I just crazy.
Which is hilarious.
Is Oppo a floodgate? No, and it never will be unless they errata it. Recently, Winnie the Pooh and Pinocchio entered the public domain and had adaptations away from Disney's clutches. What is your opinion on copyright? They need to stop extending it. They need to really need to stop letting Disney pay them into extending it.
They need to stop the Mickey Mouse laws. That's literally what they're called, by the way.
Yeah, they need to shut it down.
Because then you get amazing stuff like the Winnie the Pooh horror movie.
Yeah.
Also, fun fact, it is not Winnie the Pooh, the Disney version. It's the original version from the book.
Yeah.
The difference is the red shirt.
Yeah.
So you can't have Winnie the Pooh with a red shirt.
Weird.
So that's Disney.
Which archetype needs an N-board boss the most? Ogdoadic or B-Trooper?
Ogdoadic.
I think Ogdoadic needs it more. I think B-Trooper could make better use of it, but I think Ogdoadic needs it more. I think Fluffle could make better use of it than anyone. But give me a Fluffle one. Okay, so I know it's late, but can I get a shout out on the pod for winning the Fantasy Football League? Yes! Congratulations to Philly AJ for winning our inaugural Top Cut Podcast Fantasy Football League. I got second. I was in 4 fantasy football leagues this year. I made it to the championship in 3 of them. The one I did not make it to the championship in, I knew I wasn't going to make the playoffs because it's a dynasty team where you keep the same team every year. And I'm in rebuild mode right now, so I knew I wasn't going to do well. I made the playoffs in 3 other leagues. Got a bye week in all 3 of those leagues, made it to the championship in all 3 of those leagues, and lost the championship in all 3. I'm so mad.
That's
so mad.
Kind of funny.
Anyway, so shout out to Philly AJ for winning our inaugural league. Your team was just so much better. We might kick you out next year. Your team was... I don't understand how that was allowed. We're going to have to rework some rules on your draft specifically or something. I don't know. That was insane. What new mechanic would you like to see for the new Master Rule if Konami follows their trend? Would it be summoning, time extensions, more life points, mulligan, but opponent has to return 1 card at random afterwards, anything like that? I personally would change. I would make 45 minutes the standard for all events, not just tier 2 events. And I would change time rules. I think that overall, the time rules have actually been a net positive, despite what many people have said. I think it's very cool that life points actually matter, but I think that the solution would be to do a turn 0, turn 1, or even, I don't know, end of current phase is just rough.
Yeah.
So, but I don't have any new mechanics in particular, like summoning mechanics or anything that I want to see.
Yeah, no, same.
So, okay, next, let's see. Is there a YouTube trend, past or present, that you really enjoyed? I like people hating on the YouTube Rewind. That's always fun.
Yeah, it's like the one thing that everyone on YouTube can come together to just, come together and all agree that this one thing is awful.
Yes. I have a confession. I really, really, really enjoy watching Mr. Beast videos. I thoroughly enjoy them.
I just can't get into them.
Yeah. What are some of the most important sideboard cards in the current meta, and which popular ones are falling out of favor? Oh, gosh. Oh, this could be a whole episode.
Yeah, in and of itself.
Yeah. I think that you still have a lot of cards that are pretty staple-esque cards that you need to be running or need to be considering. I think Silent Graveyard's very good. I think DD Crows are very good. Anything that affects the graveyard is going to be good.
DD Crow if you don't have the Bestials.
Right. I think Ghost Spell is still a very strong card that people aren't necessarily giving credit to. Also, some other things that you can consider are the other decks in the room, things like Sprite and things like that. I personally think that Gamma is an extremely good card right now. I am siding 3 Psyframe Gear Gamma.
Oh, I'm maining Gamma.
Right. I think Gamma is a crazy card right now. I think that specifically in the Fluanderese matchup, Gamma removing that body off their board, putting a monster in the graveyard, doing all this stuff, it just does so much against the deck.
Yeah. It puts them on. They better have map.
Right.
It really does.
Yeah.
But
I personally believe Gamma to be one of the most important cards.
I mean, yeah, like the other more popular cards is if your deck can run it, Rivalry or Gozen, obviously.
Yes.
I've been seeing less Gozen matched, but I think that's just due to the decks, not due to like the individual decks that are currently being run. No, not Gozen, Rivalry. But I think that's due to decks being more attribute centric at the moment, unless.
Yeah, I don't think Gozen's not really a thing right now, and Rivalry is like okay.
Yeah, it's very much a case of if your deck can run it, you might as well, because it's if. I've been seeing a lot more Gozen that have Rivalry, but that's talking like in the 4 decks that have run either one.
Right. All right, well, I think that is going to wrap it up for everything pretty much. So let's go ahead and thank all of our wonderful patrons who make this show happen. So a huge thank you to Cam Yang, Dragon Maid Stunzeed, Kane Martin, Ice Cube, Chili Dog, Zyphorus, Yeet Defeat, Blackwing Silverwind the Ascendant is the best Floodgate, Earth Machine, best deck, Epi, Has Anyone Actually Read Toy Vendor, HGH Cyber, I Am McLincoln, Mountain Man, Oatmeal Spaghetti, Owen Alvarado, Pingu is the best deck, Newt, Quitting the Game as a Floodgate, Sprite Farter, Unbanned Number 95 Konami, Understanding and Reading are 2 different things, Virtually Savior's World, Rogue and Tier 2 are the polite terms for bad deck, AD, Aaron Gardner, Asami, Ashlish Chaps, Box Wine, Bestial Pizza Hut, Duty Booty, Dragon Maidenless Behavior, Eldritch, the Lord of Floodgates and Monkey Brains, Fur Hire, Dog Turd, Heroes, Pebble Cereal, Jerry Beans, Man, Cam, the Disciple of Caleb's Waifu Philosophy, Old Man Red, Pin Code 143, Ray Powell, Santa Claus, and Wire Sword Soul players inhaling so much copium. Thank you all again for your continued support of the podcast. If you're interested in joining our Patreon, there's a link down below. And if you're interested in any of our wonderful sponsors, you can, of course, check all of them out in the link down below. And we have had people asking if you are wanting to send us something, please check out we have our P.O. box down below. So thank you all so much for listening to today's episode of the Top Cut Podcast. Be sure to tune in Tuesday for the next episode. Until then, have a great weekend, everyone.
Take care, everybody.